Right then, UFC 202 is upon us, and joining me tonight I've got Derek, our podcast guy, we've got Matt, our editor, and then we got this guy who claims he's a top 10 UFC flyweight, but whatever. Welcome everybody, and of course, welcome to Mr. Louis Slug. Mocha, how are you doing, my mate?
Great, guys. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Anyway, how's it going, fellas? We have got Louis on, and we've got Louis on because he's crossed a couple of paths with Conor and the Irish contingent in the UFC a couple of times, having fought on UFC 189, where Conor obviously won the interim featherweight title against Chad Mendes, but he's also headlined in Dublin. Before we dive into the meat of UFC 202, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it was like headlining over there in Dublin and winning as well?
I had a pretty good time. I kind of missed the Irish fans. They were fun. Like, I don't know. I like all the antics and stuff. They're entertaining fans, man. It kind of sucks that Conor hasn't fought in a while. We haven't had all the hype in a bit.
Did you feel the pressure of the Irish fans fighting an Irishman in Ireland, or did you feel like they was appreciative of you taking the W?
I don't really know. They seemed a little upset at first, but it wasn't too bad. Like, everybody was cool after, you know. Like, they all kind of wanted to go out and party and stuff, but I was just, I went back to the hotel room and ate pizza. I was tired, man.
UFC 189, we've seen the sort of build-up we've saw this week. We've seen the craziness, obviously, Aldo pulling out, Chad Mendes coming in at the last minute. What was it like fighting on that card? Obviously, he was a bit further down than the main event that Conor was in, but surely you must have felt the pressure, the whole atmosphere of the arena was electric. You could see that on television.
Dude, that card gave me enough good stories for like the rest of my life, man. So I met you guys, and like the Irish like rioted watching the Robbie Lawler Rory Mac fight. Dude, that card gave me enough good stories for like the rest of my life. That was awesome. That was like the most fun I think I might have ever had.
I think that was one of the most entertaining fights fight cards to watch as well. At UFC 189.
Not like the entire fight week was bonkers. The entire build-up was amazing. That was like one of the best times of my life, honestly.
All right, so UFC 202, it is upon us this week. It hasn't sold well, and coincidentally, I'm saying there's no funny business going on here. You may or may not disagree or agree, whatever. The press conference kicks off in more ways than one this afternoon, and we see utter carnage. Now, Stockton brought Stockton to the press conference, and then they started throwing bottles all around. Matt, you was there. Talk to me about what you just witnessed this afternoon at the UFC 202 press conference.
I witnessed a couple of things, man. First off, fashionably late Conor to a press conference. No big surprise there. The surprise this time was that Dana was like, we're going to start without you this time. You know, the guy's got to learn to respect other people's time. He's got to learn to respect the media's time. So he went on time with the press conference, which was, all right, cool. So until he actually arrived, it was kind of ho-hum. There wasn't anything really exciting said. It was just standard answers from all the guys that were there, from Rumble, Glover, and Nate. And then Conor arrives. He said he thought it was supposed to be at 1:30. Yada yada yada. Shortly after that, you see Nate get up and start heading towards like he was going to walk out. And of course, as soon as he gets in the presence of his entourage, so to say, he starts jawing back at Conor, who's still on the stage trying to answer a question. And as they got closer to Conor's camp, and the camp started throwing F-bombs, flipping the birds at each other, and all of a sudden water bottles start flying, and Conor gets up, starts chunking stuff across the whole theater. It became this ridiculous scene, and I think
like
this
was a food fight, kind of.
It really did for a second. It really did. There was a couple of guys who got completely drenched in water or Monster or soda or whatever it was that hit them. But it was this moment. This was a moment that the UFC needed to get those fans that were kind of on the fence about the hype around the card. This should have sold to anybody that was like, maybe I'm going to buy, maybe I'm not. This moment right here was that moment that the UFC needed coming into this week. You know, we were wondering what was going to be the moment. This was the last opportunity to sell people on the fight before weigh-ins. I mean, that's the other opportunity you have this week. And I think, staged or not, it was extremely entertaining, and you got to take it for what it was. And it was incredible to be there. I was just out of the range of a few water bottles, so I almost got hit myself. But it was an incredible scene, to say the least.
I'm going to come back to Louis now, and then I'm going to hit you over in a second, Derek. But Louis, we spoke just a second ago before we went live that the UFC wouldn't ask you to do something like this, you'd say, but we might see them encourage this sort of thing, did you say?
I wouldn't be surprised if it is encouraged. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say, like, well, it's not like they're going to pat you on the back and say, good job, but you're going to get a call to fight again. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get a call to fight again as soon as possible. So, like, I wouldn't say, like it's definitely, like, he's going to tell you not to do it and blah, 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 but it's done, you know, and they're going to use it as airtime, and I think it works out well.
Derek, so before we go into the rest of the press conference, because actually it was a pretty decent press conference until Conor turned up. What do you think? What's your gut feeling? Are you thinking this was staged? This is a fight card that I think is going to smash it in terms of the pay-per-view. But I'm not sure this is selling too well over there in Vegas itself. It seems to be really struggling. Do you think that's any sort of reason for this? Or do you think it's just two massive personalities have clashed? This was the result.
First of all, I'm just going to say I'm glad Matthew Wells is still with us and he didn't get hit by any air and water bottles or monster cans.
We're insured, we can replace
Good
it.
to see you, buddy. But you know what? As far as the whole thing, I think you guys all pretty well. This definitely amped up the sales. But I also do think that if you were to script it, and I'm not saying it's scripted, that script was followed out and carried out pretty damn well. I'm just going to say that.
Let's move on to the other two guys. The main ones that was sat at the table, and we're talking Rumble and we're talking Glover. They was being very respectful of each other, very disrespectful of John Jones. Both of them not really interested in anything to do with John Jones. Both of them kind of friendly, considering they're going to be going toe-to-toe, and I expect an absolute war between these two. Matt, what did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I expected from both of those guys. You never really seen Anthony Johnson talk trash to anybody. You never seen Glover really talk trash to anybody. More times than not, Glover comes off as like a big teddy bear, you know, and you see that in past embedded series, and Anthony is the same for, you know, with the outlying yoga mat incident. You know, he's pretty much considered a gentle guy. So that really wasn't a surprising thing to me. The surprising thing to me was that they were talking about not wanting to worry about John Jones anymore. You know, they both had it out. They say they want DC next. Then that's where this fight is going to get them if they do both come away victorious. So that was pretty interesting to see.
Louis, you've been in this situation where you've been sat at the press conference table. What's your natural instinct? Are you thinking that you want to go head-to-head with these people? Do you need to hate someone to fight them? Or are you more in the Rumble and Glover camp? Because we had massive contrast here between Nate and Conor, and obviously Rumble and Glover, just complete polar opposites between the two sets of fighters.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters for the fight. It's all about build-up, you know. Whatever your marketing is, however you're selling yourself. You know, I think it's like it's just you have to stick to your marketing. You have to be true to yourself. You know, people don't want to see you like pretend or like put on some kind of front. So it's just different people. You know, they do different things. Me, I'm kind of laid back. I don't really care at all, honestly.
Right, I'm going to come to you now, Derek. We're going to talk about breaking these fights down. What's going to happen when Glover and Rumble step into that cage on Saturday night?
You know what? If Glover decides to stand with Rumble, I think that's going to be a very bad idea for him. I think Rumble holds a speed advantage over Glover, and I think that he can deliver a shot that can basically knock anybody out. And Glover also has been staggered in a couple of his fights. That being said, I think if Glover decides to take this to the ground, I think he holds a huge advantage there over Rumble Johnson, and Glover does have the good enough wrestling to get it to the ground. I think that his jiu-jitsu ability is going to be the key to this fight. If he fights a smart distance on the feet and looks for his spots to get it to the ground, I think that he potentially submits Anthony Rumble Johnson.
Big call. Louis, how do you see this one going? Can you give us any sort of insight into how you think this fight's going to go down and what the result's going to be?
Probably Anthony Johnson. He's just too big. I think he's too much, dude. Anthony Johnson is just a beast.
Can't argue with that, mate.
He's too much, dude. And I don't think Glover can deal with it. It's just too much Anthony Johnson, man.
Matt, how's this one going down?
I mean, if the embedded training footage is any indication of who's been more explosive in their training, it's definitely Anthony Rumble Johnson. Now, we've seen that in the past where, you know, that doesn't necessarily always tell the tale, but I agree with what Lewis said, man. Anthony Rumble Johnson is an absolute beast. The dude has power, not only in his hands, but in those head kicks. He's a vicious, vicious striker, and I expect nothing less than him to go out there and put on a show. But Glover is tough. Glover can take a lot of punishment too, so it's going to be interesting to see. I think Glover has to catch him really good one time to end this fight. Otherwise, Anthony's just going to pick him apart. That's the way I see it going.
I'm in agreement with all of you in a sense, really. I think that if Anthony can get his game plan, if he can start throwing those hands, if he can include the legs in there as well, because his legs are absolutely deadly, then he's going to have an early night for him. But if Glover's able to weather an early storm, because there's always an early storm with Rumble Johnson, if he's able to weather that and drag this fight into the latter rounds, then I think Rumble Johnson is in for a bad night, because I don't think he has the gas tank. I think his huge frame is Mike Tyson built. It's built to get you out of there in the first round or two. I think it's built to just absolutely run through you. And I think if he fails that, Chael Sonnen said it best, didn't he? If you go for the knockout and miss, you ain't getting the decision. If you go for the decision, you ain't getting the knockout. And I think that's so true for Rumble Johnson. I don't think he's a decision fighter. I think he's a guy that needs to get in there and blast you. And if he doesn't, then he's in trouble. So I'm gonna pin my colours to the Rumble Johnsons getting the W on this one. And then we might actually see him against DC for the strap, which will be mega interesting. But the one that we all want to talk about, I'm going to come back straight to you now on this one, Derek. I'm flip-flopping. I can't work it out. I change by the hour, by the way the wind goes. I have no idea how this main event's going down. Derek, Conor, Nate Diaz, number 2. What's going to happen?
Well, I think Conor's kind of almost giving a tell with his game plan. I think he's saying he's going to come out fast. He's going to come right at Nate the same way he did last time. He's going to have more in the tank to get it done. However, I think that he's bluffing. I think that he is going to come out fast, but I think he's going to keep his distance a lot more. I don't think he's going to stand in the pocket and trade nearly as much. I don't think he's going to load up on his shots nearly as much either. I think he's going to work some leg kicks, which he should, because that leg is there for the taking if he does. And keep his distance, pop in, pop out, and look for one good shot to knock him out rather than loading up on some huge shots constantly like he was doing in the first matchup. I do have Conor McGregor winning this fight, and I do have it inside the distance.
Louis, what do you reckon, mate?
I think Nate should clinch spam. I don't know who plays the video game. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term, but clinch spam means where you just run up to somebody, you keep grabbing them and hitting them, or you keep grabbing them and taking them down. I think that's the way to go. Like, honestly, all you really have to do is make contact with, like grab a hold of Conor and like close the distance on him. If he can just close that distance and keep a hold of him, he's gonna wear Conor down. Conor's might be able to fight off the first takedown attempt, the first couple of transitions, but it'll break eventually if Nate can keep a hold of him.
Matthew, talk to me. What do you think? How do you see this one going down?
Man, I think after what just happened today, I have to give the edge back to Nate Diaz, because we've seen in the past, we saw it in the first fight, that Nate kind of got in Conor's head a little bit, and that kind of threw off Conor's game, I think, a little bit, because Conor is always the one that's got the cerebral advantage over his opponents. And he doesn't have that with Nate Diaz. He didn't have it the first time, and he sure as hell doesn't have it this time around either, after getting water bottles thrown at him while he's trying to answer a question on the stage. So, you know, if that's any indication, I'm going with Nate based on what just happened a few minutes ago. Listen, I think if Conor did have a game plan coming in, if he did have that mentality of I'm going to take it slow, I'm going to pick my shots a little bit cleaner, I think that just went out the window. I think he's going to come out more emotional now and try to make a statement, and that's really going to play right into what Nate Diaz wants. So if again, it's still right on the fence for me, but right now I'm more on this side of the Nate Diaz fence based on what just happened at that press conference.
I'm completely torn. I've watched the first fight 12 times, and I watched them from different perspective each time, because I was going to do a breakdown video and then decided I'm not sure the breakdown video for this is the right thing to do. But here's what I basically learned. In the first round, early part of the fight, Conor was using the oblique kick to the knee of Nate Diaz, and that was keeping the range, and that was keeping Nate backed up. Nate couldn't come forward, and all Nate throws is very simple punches, 1-2 left hook, 1-2 left hook, but he's excellent at them. The timing of them is so crisp, it's elite. But he can't do that when he's moving backwards. He can't throw anything counter when he's moving backwards. And Conor was backing him up with the oblique kick. And a lot of the stuff Conor does, especially when he kicks to the body and stuff like that, it's not for damage. It's for range. It's for distraction. It's for a multitude of purposes, except what, on the face of it, it looks like. What Nate was also doing was he was covering up in two specific ways. The first way he was covering up was just the standard guard, and the second way he was covering up, he was dipping down to his left. And I think the dip down to his left is what initiated Conor throwing the uppercut. And I think Conor, once he started getting a few shots landed on himself, I think Conor just got stuck in a loop of, I need to throw the uppercut, I need to throw the uppercut. And he stopped doing the oblique kicks to the leg, he stopped keeping the distance at the right sort of range, and he just went for this stupid uppercut which he was loading up on, because I think he had like a little bit of success with one or two of them, and then he just got stuck in the, this is what I need to do, couldn't take himself out of it and to see what the bigger picture of the fight was. And I think once he'd done that, it was fairly easy pickings. You've got to get quite close to throw the uppercut, and I think once he was getting inside that range, he wasn't keeping the fight at the right distance for him, and then Nate Diaz went to work, and he was landing those 1-2s, and he throws them heavy, and he throws them slick, and he throws them with precision. And I think Conor got caught. And I think it's as simple as that. And when it went to the ground, I think Nate Diaz is a different animal on the ground than Conor McGregor is. And there was only one way that was going to go down. And I've reanalyzed it, and I've rewatched it, and I've made tons of notes, and I've gone, I still don't see Conor McGregor winning this. I think he's got the option to win there. I think that Celtic cross, that big left hand, is definitely an option to win it. But I don't see in a straight boxing match how Conor McGregor beats Nate Diaz. I don't see how he beats him if it goes to the ground. I don't see him winning a decision. So I see more ways for Nate Diaz to win this fight than I do for Conor to win this fight. And as a European, and with the whole of the European UFC, MMA scene resting on the shoulders of Conor McGregor being a success, I want Conor to win this fight. I just don't see many methods for him to win this fight. And that is how I see it going down, in all honesty. I think it could easily go both ways. It's an intriguing fight, and it's got people hyped up for all of those reasons, because nobody knows how this fight's going to go. The first fight was a little bit of a shock for people. Everyone was expecting for Conor to do what he's done to everybody else that he's met in the UFC. Didn't go down like that. And I think the second fight is going to go down a very similar way to the first fight. And that's that, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the rest of the card. I'm excited for Cowboy Cerrone fighting, who we've not even spoke about. That's how big this card is. That's how big the hype train is around Conor McGregor. You don't even talk about Cowboy Cerrone. I feel ashamed of myself, but there we go. We've mentioned him anyway. But thank you to these boys for joining us. Let's make sure we get some big MMA latest support for Louis next time he's fighting, which is when, Louis?
October 1st, I'm fighting Sergio Pettis.
Yes, sir. That's a big fight right there. That's a big fight. That's a big one.
Rumble. There we go. So, we get behind Louis Smoker as he goes to take apart Sergio Pettis. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Get it in the comments. I want to know what you guys think. How this fight is going down. How's Conor and Nate going down? Do you see an early stoppage? Do you see a decision? Personally, I can't see any judge being needed on Saturday night. I cannot wait. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with more stuff for MMA latest. Until then, we'll see you soon.